The following interview with Kevin Lish is brought to you by osnap.com. Osnap.com provides you with OSnaps, the phone grip that doesn't suck. Go check out their website, check out all their products. They got fantastic phone accessories. Use promo code Midtown15 at checkout and get 15% off your first order. Now, enjoy the interview with Kevin Lish.
All right.
Oh, God.
Nice and early for you guys, huh?
Yeah, I'm usually up at about 5. So, I mean, it's only about a half hour.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
just to get up and get moving. So,
Yeah. Where'd you get the hat?
I bought it on eBay, but
Nice.
yeah, no, I was gonna ask you actually on the pod about the AFL and if they had approached you. So, because I mean, just with your, being
Yeah.
a basketball player and
Yeah.
and being hard nosed, seemed like I wish I was in the shape I'm in now, and I was like 22, because I'd go down and give it a go. Just
They hold combines actually in the US. And they actually like to target, basketball players, because I guess there's, some similarities, parallels there.
Well, I'll just drop that in, I guess, then, but no, yeah, there's a really kind of niche group here in St. Louis that actually goes and plays at Forest Park at Francis Field on Mondays and Thursdays.
No way.
Yeah, and then they go and they'll play in little tournaments. It's kind of like Seven's version of Aussie rules. So I haven't
Okay.
gotten out to play with them yet, but I'm gonna try as soon as whenever. I don't know. It's my life is insane. So, but yeah, well, Kevin, welcome back for part 2. This is the first time I've done an interview where we've had time elapsed. First of all, congratulations to your country on the bronze medal at the Tokyo Olympics in basketball.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, geez, that was the first medal for an Australian basketball team, ever. And, the bronze medal was awesome. Obviously, the guys were going for the gold, but I think to get that first kind of elusive medal in what was, a tough game, Slovenia made it pretty interesting, but guys were able to make some plays, and obviously Patty Mills had himself a big game.
You, as the kids say, you walked so they could run. It basically is what happened there, right?
I don't know. I mean, there were so many guys, before then that put in, that laid the foundations. I was just fortunate to kind of be a piece of the puzzle, but it was really, really cool to watch from here.
You mentioned Patty Mills. Talk to me a little bit about FIBA Patty, as the announcers said, because I know we heard a lot about it from guys that played against him. What about you, who played with him? What talk to us about how he turns it on when it comes to international competition?
Well, I think it's yeah, maybe he does turn it on, but I think he's also becomes a focal point of offense, where as in the NBA, the Spurs, he's been a role player and he's fulfilled that role really well. But it just goes to show when things are run for him, when he's got kind of free reign to be, the man that he's pretty dominant. And you wish you'd see a little more of that in the NBA, but I think that's what's made him really well, good and successful in the first place as well. That he just fulfills that role, and with the Boomers, it's to score and to make plays happen, and it is pretty amazing how he's able to flip that switch.
So speaking of this whole Olympic, process, how did it work for you? I mean, you had been there a while and got Australian citizenship. So walk us through how that works for a U.S. born player like you to become Australian for purposes of the Olympics.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. I first got to Australia in 2009, obviously after graduating from SLU. And then I got the Rio Olympics were in 2016, and I got my citizenship maybe 5 months before then, just in time. And obviously it helped, being in the, a possible pick for the Olympic team. So I had fulfilled most of the requirements. But I think, being a possibility for the Olympic team kind of helped me over the edge there, which was pretty cool. And yeah, got my citizenship. Obviously, still have my U.S. citizenship. Um, and then yeah, to cap it off, kind of like an icing on the cake, or a stamp of approval, got to be a boomer, which was pretty cool.
Go
So
ahead.
who'd you? Yeah. So the big question is, who did you root for when they played the United States?
I was going for Australia. And when I played for the Boomers in Rio, we played the US. Um, so obviously my blood is back in the US, but I played for the Boomers. I've lived here now for 12 years, so and I always like a good underdog story. So yeah, I was going for Australia.
Uh,
You play the U.S. in 2016. What do you remember about that team and that game? It looks like you guys finished second in the group, right behind them.
Yeah, I remember. We had a tough group. We played France the first game, beat them, beat Serbia the second, lost to the U.S. We were right there the entire game. I think ended up losing by 9 or 10, but it was a really good game. Um, and then yeah, beat China, Venezuela, whatever, finished second. But they had a really talented team, obviously. Durant, Carmelo, Anthony, all that. But geez, it happened 5 years ago. It's all just kind of a blur. I do remember that bronze medal game though against Spain that we lost by one.
did you get any attention from pro scouts over here in the wake of that tournament?
No, not necessarily. It was more so maybe a little bit more attention over in Europe, um, but no, not necessarily from the States.
So speaking of that, let's go back to that Spain game. You said you lost by one, and that would have been for the bronze medal.
Yeah, that's right. So I think we were up by one, I want to say, with probably 8 or 10 seconds left. And yeah, you can still remember it. Sergio Rodriguez come off an on ball, goes right, and Patty Mills makes what looked like a really good defensive play, but they call a blocking foul. 2 shots, he hits both of them, and it was a really tough way to end it. And I think that's what made their win, get the bronze medal this year so much more special. Is that you knew what a lot of these guys who had been with the program for 12 years have been through, to almost get to that point and then finally get over the hump. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. What's that whole experience like? That Olympic experience? Being there in Rio for a few weeks with all those other athletes. Give us a sense of what that experience is like.
Yeah, I'd say a bubble, but geez, this day and age, a bubble takes everything to a whole new level, I guess. But you were in your own little, in the village, and then you take the bus to the arena, and you are in your own little cocoon, I guess, in a bubble, and you don't know a whole lot what's going around in the outside world or how much people are really, watching and that kind of stuff. Um, so it feels like another, I don't want to say another basketball tournament. You're representing your country, but um, it's pretty, I think it makes it a little easier to stay focused in that regard. But my favorite thing to do was just walk around the village, the dining hall, and just people watch and that kind of stuff, which was pretty cool.
Speaking of the dining hall, as I always think about food, what kind of food did they have? What options were there? I'm just curious.
Well, you can imagine all the different countries, so there were a lot of different options. But I will tell you, the food was not that healthy. Like it was tough to find really kind of healthy food there, which most people think, athletes and stuff. And then I remember in the village, there's a McDonald's there, and everything for the athletes is free. So the last day, me being the rookie, we lose to Spain, line up McDonald's and order like 100 Big Macs, 100, and we just have a huge, get together with McDonald's there. But yeah, those are the kind of things I remember.
Were you mostly hanging out with just your teammates, your basketball teammates, or did you get to know kind of the larger Australian team or any others?
Yeah, you got to know most of it because basketball, you start on the first day Olympics, end on the last day, whereas, swimming is the first week, track and field the second week. So we got to, like in Australia, in our, I guess, apartments, you go down to the first level, there's a hub where everyone can go and hang out. So you do get to know other athletes, but then it's pretty much you're just living with, your teammates. So um yeah, it's a real neat experience, and yeah, you had a lot of fun, have a lot of fun there, and throwing water balloons from the ninth story floor at other athletes. You find ways to fill up your day.
Uh, yeah, sorry, I lost what I had to say. Go on, repeat. Go ahead.
No, so yeah, so what other kind of activities can you even get into when you're, in the Olympic Village and having that experience?
Yeah, well, it's kind of tough because um we played every other day. I think in Tokyo there were a few less games, but you play every other day. And so you play the game, review the game, go through the scout, have a light practice, then play the game again the next day. So there's not a whole lot you can do, but really in that downtime, you would go, to other events, the tennis or, beach volleyball, whatever was close by, and you get to, and then, try and get out of the village and go out to eat and that kind of stuff. Um, so I guess you do as much as you can to try and get out and experience other stuff while still focusing for your own things.
Did you have a favorite event or non-basketball athlete that you enjoyed watching in person or getting to meet?
Oh, geez. I do remember, walking through the village and seeing, a bunch of people start to, kind of are just watching. And then I walk up and, Novak Djokovic is having a practice session with his coach, and everyone's, crowded around watching him, and, a big pile of people following Usain Bolt, trying to get pictures with him. So, but I wasn't, I wasn't about to go up and, try and get pictures and autographs and all that. I just have fun kind of watching people watching from a distance.
Is,
Was your
is
family able to make it down there, or was it just you?
No, it's just me. They were watching on TV, and but yeah, I talk to them all the time though.
so let's go back to, since I mean I figured we'd get into the Olympics since it's a time as far as pertinent scheduling wise and what time we're in, and the Olympics just happened. But let's go back to you know we left off with you. You had left St. Louis University. You get over to Australia in '09 with the Perth Wildcats. What was there? What was the connection with Chris Harriman? How did that kind of come about?
Yeah, so Chris Harriman, originally from Australia, and obviously our assistant coach at St. Louis, you knew the head coach of Perth Wildcats, Rob Beveridge, and putting a good word for me. They were actually deciding looking at Jimmy Barron as well, who played for Rhode Island, really good shooter. And fortunately, Harry, put in a good word for me, and I had no idea about Australia, but I was on a plane to go over there, and I think probably end of August. So it was pretty cool.
Jimmy Barron. Who wants that guy?
The guy could shoot the ball.
Oh God, you don't have
yeah.
to remind me.
Man.
So what's a season in Australia like? It's a little shorter than an NBA year, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's quite a bit shorter. So it usually the first game is first week of October, and then usually done by mid-March to beginning of April. And it's all during the summer months. So obviously, the seasons are opposite of what they are in the States. So um, the summer months here in Australia, it's played, and yeah, it's weird. You're walking, you come from St. Louis, you get up before the sun comes up, and you walk out of practice when it's dark outside, and whereas here it's hot. Everyone's walking on the beach and stuff like that, and so yeah, there's quite a few differences in the seasons.
And so you guys were pretty good pretty much right out of the gate when you got down there. It looks like you won a championship in 2010. Is that right?
Yeah, so we won. Yeah, we won the championship 2010, and it's a pretty cutthroat. Unfortunately, I was pretty naive. I wasn't necessarily playing great. First time being away, and little did I know they wanted to cut me before the season even began, and preseason and all that stuff. But the head coach said, "No, you're not getting rid of him," and we worked our way through it, and I finished pretty strong, and we ended up winning a championship, and kind of got stuck out here, which is in a good way.
Going back to the start of that 09 10 season, apparently the NBL was under or in a little bit of trouble. Can you kind of run us through that? Because apparently
Yeah.
they may not have had even a season. So, I mean, you're heading right down to Australia, and then there's talk that there may not be a season.
Yeah, so it was in strife. There was a lot of geez, moving parts. Financially, teams weren't doing well. There wasn't a whole lot of interest. Um, so it wasn't a good year. And yeah, they were talking about canceling that year, then building it up. But fortunately, able to have a year. And then, I think it was a couple years down the track. um, the league was bought by a man named Larry Kesselman, who just changed the whole, complexion of the league and built it up really to what it is right now.
Uh, Sorry, I'm going through that season. Looked like you had 29 points in the let's see in game 3 of the NBL championship, and you guys won 96-72 over the Hawks. Talk to us about that game and that 29-point output.
Yeah, so it's only a 3-game series, and it was 1-1 each way. And we were actually, if I remember correctly, we were down by 10. In the second quarter, we're kind of grinding, and then I started hitting a few threes, and I think I actually scored all those in 3 quarters, and then fortunately the game was gone, and we were able to win it. But I don't have I guess a real vivid memory, but that it was pretty cool, and to your first year playing professionally, and you win a championship. You think it happens every year, but it doesn't.
What did it mean to be named MVP of that series as a rookie, especially?
Yeah, it was obviously quite an honor, but I think that whole year I could be described as pretty naive to everything, and which actually played into my favor because you didn't feel the pressure of, I guess, being professional, and it's not like college where they can just get rid of you. Um, in college they can, in pros they can just get rid of you, whenever they want, really. So I think I was fortunate to be a bit, naive and not really know how it all worked. And yeah, proud of the way I worked through that season as well.
So you end up playing a couple more seasons there and having some more success, winning the league's MVP in 2012. By then, did you have kind of a better sense of what you were up against?
I did. And at that time, so yeah, I played in Perth for 4 years before going over to Europe, then coming back to Australia. But those first 4 years of that league, it was an extremely physical league. Um, Probably what you see in the Australian rules football, some of that
Yeah.
culture carried over into the basketball, I think. And it was really physical. And um, it was, yeah, just, I think I grew up a lot in those 4 years as well.
You mentioned Aussie rules football, and Aussie rules has a soft spot in my heart thanks to Cody Ellis. Did anybody ever approach you about making the transition, or were they just like, nah, this guy is like is set in basketball, so we're not even gonna mess with him?
Yeah, I think they probably saw how I kicked the ball and were like, no, this guy, he's hopeless. But not necessarily myself, but I've known, them holding combines in the U.S., with former basketball players. There's actually a former college player playing in Collingwood right now. So one of the teams. So they definitely do go over because, you have big guys who can move their feet in basketball, and that, relates pretty well to AFL. So, but no, not for me. That wasn't for me.
It's actually funny you mentioned Mason Cox. I believe he played for Travis Ford at Oklahoma State. So kind of a fun, another
Yeah,
St.
wow.
Louis connection
How about
there.
that little
So
connection?
I know. I have just an insane bank of useless knowledge. So uh,
Speaking of connections, I actually found another one. You never met Darren Brooks when you were in Perth, did you? He's a St. Louis area guy. He played high school ball there and then played at SIU Carbondale for a few years. But I think he might have been 2 or 3 seasons before you at
Yes.
Perth.
Yeah, definitely. No, I know who you're talking about. He played really well in Perth, but yeah, he was probably 3 or 4 years before me. Um, but man, yeah, there's been quite a few guys. Well, obviously the St. Louis connections, that Georgia Jets and stuff. But Roland Roberts, who played for SU Carbondale. There's been quite a few guys that have been really familiar faces, and yeah, which has been pretty cool.
I'm curious. While you were in those first 4 years at Perth, that when you met your now wife?
I did, yes. So she was studying. She's actually from Sydney, and she was studying over in Perth and playing for the women's basketball team. And then she actually played for 3 years at Oral Roberts in the U.S. and everything. So yeah, met her over there, and um, it's funny because my sister and her husband Trent Meacham, he was going over to play basketball in Austria at the same time I was leaving for Australia. And my mom said to Teresa and Trent, who had just recently got married, he said, Teresa, you better come back with your husband. And she said to me, Kevin, you better not come back with a wife. And it was just kind of funny, tongue in cheek, but funny how it all worked out.
What was it like when you go and you play over in Puerto Rico, kind of moving? I don't know. Did you have children at this point, or were you guys just recently married? What was it like, kind of making that transition?
So the first time in Puerto Rico, I think 2013, my wife Rachel was pregnant with Benjamin. So yeah, she went over there. The second stint in 2016, before the Rio Olympics, I had Benjamin and Sophia, and they stayed back here in Australia, and I was just over there by myself for 2.5 months, which was pretty tough. But yeah, they didn't travel that first time, but um, they were, I had Benjamin. He was born in Paris. Sophia was born in Spain. So, Yeah, the twins have been born here in Australia, so kind of just a big melting pot here.
Was that second time just kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, we've seen this before. What's the point of kind of uprooting just for 2 months? Or was that a conscious decision to not bring them?
Yeah, it was. And in retrospect, we've said looking back, I would have definitely brought them. But it was more of, they were young and just travel across the world for a short time. It was like, I don't know if I'm going to do that. Um, with that being said, Puerto Rico was one of my favorite places in my career to play. Just the people, the league, the island. It was just so much fun.
Last time we talked about it just briefly before we had to end, it was probably the last thing we really talked about. And you said the style there is really up tempo, really fast paced, and it's kind of a wild game. Did you find that it was pretty well suited to you, or was it just kind of a fun aside for a couple months at a time?
No, I found that it was pretty well suited in the fact that, you know, I was able to play with a lot of freedom and really just kind of run the show, which was a lot of fun. And it's a really talented league. You get a lot of really good, NBA player, ex NBA players, and the Puerto Ricans can really play. And it's just such a fun league to play in, and just some wonderful people to be around. Their fans are just crazy, and just especially where I was, live and die by their basketball. Our team hadn't won in 35 years, and we win the championship, and it was just chaos.
Hmm.
So I think, looking back at my career, Puerto Rico probably stands out as one of the top, um, destinations for sure.
When you were in Puerto Rico, and I believe, if I recall correctly, you mentioned you ran into Ruben Cotto again, correct?
Yeah, so Ruben was over there playing, and he still messages me every now and then. But yeah, he was playing for one of the teams, and yeah, so it was funny to kind of catch up with him and see how he was going, because I think the last time I saw Ruben, he was walking off the court after Majerus was yelling at him. So never saw Ruben again till Puerto Rico.
Did you know he was going to be there, or was that just a total surprise?
No, I knew he was going to be there. So, being Puerto Rican, can play. So, but yeah, it's just funny. Hadn't seen him for probably 3 years, and we pop up playing against each other again.
I want to talk to you right now about osnap.com. They are the phone grip that doesn't suck. They offer phone grips that are absolutely outstanding. They are the best on the market right now. They have a charging port that is fantastic. I use it next to my bed. That way I'm not on my phone on the long cord. It sits there on a dock. It's wireless. It's wonderful. So go check them out at osnap.com. Use promo code Midtown15 and get 15% off your first order.
So you mentioned NBA players. I know a lot of guys who have played pro overseas. It seems like everybody's kind of done a tour or two in Puerto Rico. Who else did you run into down there, either as a teammate or an opponent? And any names that you would
Um,
know, I guess,
oh, there was
basketball
Francisco Garcia, Ike Diagu, who we played, Mike Harris. There were, geez, I mean, there's so many I can't even. And I tell you, in Puerto Rico, they pay you by the week because they cut you by the week. And if you're not playing well, they'll get rid of you, and that's if you get your paycheck. But I was fortunate to be in a really good situation with great management and all that. It helps when you win some games too.
Yeah.
You have a little bit easier time getting that paycheck. But um, yeah, just some really good players, and yeah, just a fun atmosphere to play in.
Talk to us a little bit about that. You mentioned not getting the paycheck, and what's the kind of, is it, kind of corruption, or is it kind of just fly by night ownership? Like, what goes on down there that leads to, players not getting paid and such?
Well, I don't think it's just Puerto Rico. I mean, there's places in Europe too, teams that are
Right.
notorious. So the main thing is you do your research beforehand. Like I said, I played it for Quebradillas in Puerto Rico, and and the people running that were, stand-up people who, we developed a really good relationship, and I never had any issues. And some of that, I don't know, is probably the pressure of running sporting teams where, let's be honest, you're losing money a lot of the time, unless you're like, these NBA teams where your valuation is growing. But when teams are losing money, when it's tough, like, you might forget to pay the players every now and then if you're not winning.
Moving over to 2013-14, you head to France, JSF Nanterre. I think I said that right. And you had an interesting team up here. Trent Meacham was on that squad. You mentioned him earlier. Teresa's husband. What was that like, and how did that come about?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So it was my first year in Europe, and Trent was already on the team from the year before, and I was looking to, find a team. Nanterre had just gone up to EuroLeague, so it was, just a great opportunity. And in one of the first preseason games, I broke my hand, so I was out for, geez, I missed all of the EuroLeague season. Made it back for Euro Cup. But we had a really good, talented team. Another guy on the team, Will Daniels, who played at Rhode Island. Really good player. We had some, David Leidy, who played for Ohio State. We had some really, really good, not just basketball players, but just good people. And it was so much fun and that's where we had our first child, and for my sister to be there to kind of help out, and was pretty neat.
Yeah, that didn't even occur to me. I don't know why that didn't occur to me that Teresa was there too, because I even said that she was with Trent. What you mentioned four names, well, three names, and then yourself. What were the rules as far as imports in that league? Because I'm surprised they had four Americans on the squad.
Yeah, well, I think we probably had more than four Americans. For EuroLeague, Euro Cup games, you're allowed as many Americans as you want, so that's not a problem. We ended up having six foreigners. For the French league at that time, I think you're only allowed five or whatever, so one person had to sit out each game. But yeah, in France, you're allowed more kind of foreigners. Um, I think the rules have been tweaked a little. Same with Spain. They might have been tweaked a little bit, but yeah, well, it's different to Australia, where there were only two or three imports allowed.
So, so was there any opportunity for you to kind of stay longer there? It sounded like you had a pretty good situation, with your sister and brother-in-law there, and a new family. But you only end up spending one season there. Were you hoping to stick around, or what brought you to Spain the next year?
Yeah, there was definitely an opportunity to stick around at Nanterre, a couple of the other teams, but I got a decent offer from a team in Spain. I always wanted to play in the Spanish league, um, and we just thought, it was a great opportunity to experience, the culture, the country, and you just hear these great things about the league. So yeah, wanted to try that out. I guess we were the adventurous type.
What about the level of competition between France and Spain? Is that a big jump?
It's not necessarily a big jump. It's just different style of play. I would say Puerto Rico and France you have these athletes. It's more up and down. Whereas Spain, you still have athletes, but it's much more structured. Everything's, very much structured, and you run through your sets, and the leading scorer of the league in France might average, 20, 25 a game, whereas leading scorer in Spain might be 14 a game, 16. So it's definitely a different style, And when I got to Spain, the coach said, Kevin, I just want you to run the team. I don't care about scoring and any of that. After we had lost a couple, he calls me back on, we take the train to games. He said, Kevin, I need you to score more. So it was, I definitely remember that.
You guys finished 8th. You guys snuck into the playoffs. And I mean, you guys had a decent season, 18 and 16. Um, you know, talk to me about that season and just kind of how it, went down. And I believe you guys made it to the semifinals.
So we were tied with Gran Canaria, I think, if I can remember, at 18 and 16, but they had the split on us. So they ended up making the playoffs, and we were left out from what I
Okay.
remember.
Maybe I have the wrong table. It's entirely possible because I'm an
Yeah, but I mean, 18 and 16 in the ACB is definitely nothing to hang your hat about, your head about, considering the talent, the teams there. And so we had a really good team, and yeah, some really nice players on the team. And like I said, it was just fun going to all these little different cities in Spain and experiencing it. While, we did pretty well, played about 20 minutes a game, which is pretty average for a player in Spain. So yeah, it was good. And my daughter was born in Spain too.
What was it like seeing, going up against teams with Real Madrid and the Barcelona, Real Madrid's got that clean white jersey that everybody's familiar with to watch a soccer. Barcelona has the up and down, the vertical stripes. What was it like seeing those jerseys across the court from you?
Yeah, it was cool. I think probably the neatest is Barcelona, because their jerseys definitely resemble very much the soccer or football team, whatever. But their whole complex is connected. So when you walk in, you can see, the soccer player, the soccer players, the pictures and all that stuff. So I think the history there, which we don't always get to see in the US, not only history of clubs, but of the culture, was something that really, really stuck out.
Is that something you think could work here in the United States, where you see it a little bit with men's and women's of each sport, but you don't necessarily see you know basketball, baseball, football like under the same brand? Is that something you think could ever work here, or is that?
Oh man, I'm definitely no expert in this area. I think it would be tough, um, just because of the competitiveness of the market. These teams go year round. So over there, Barcelona, the basketball team has so much money to pay the players because of the soccer team or the football team. So they all kind of share it now. I don't think you're going to have private owners there in the US necessarily wanting to do that, but who knows? I don't really know.
What's the level of competition like in France and Spain versus somewhere like Australia, where you played out most of your career? Did you feel like it was, are those considered like kind of higher tier leagues, or are they pretty equal, or what's that level like there?
I would say early in my career in Australia, to Europe, the European France Spain would be higher league. Now, no. I think Australia is one of the best leagues in the world, behind um, the NBA, obviously. So in that just shows how much Australia's grown, and not just grown, but it's a destination. The amount of Americans that contact you that say, I want to go out to Australia and play, like, it's just incredible. So, the league has grown in so many ways. Um, and now it's not far behind, any of those at all. If it's probably not even behind them.
Yeah, I've had that kind of same impression. It's kind of crazy how fast that happened too. It's because it's not, I mean, it's not like your career was like 20 years long or anything. I mean, the Australian league grew up pretty fast.
Yeah, it really did. And you see the quality of imports coming in, the quality of the Australian players, and then, you have guys, big names start to come in. I played with, Steve Blake 1 year, teammates with the Kings, and then obviously, you know, Bogues coming back to Australia was another, kind of spotlight on the league. And then, they started this Next Stars program where they got, RJ Hampton, LaMelo Ball, and all these. So I think it gained a lot more, worldwide interest, and really put it on the map a bit more to see the quality out there.
You head back to Australia in 15, 16 to play with Illawarra Hawks, and you team up with my dude Cody Ellis. What was it like getting to know him as a teammate down there?
Oh, Cody's great. I mean, the guy can take a charge, first of all. He's pretty amazing, but he's just a selfless, easygoing guy who will do anything for the team. And he wasn't always in he was in some tough situations as a pro that probably, maybe didn't help his game grow the most, but you never heard a bad word from Cody, and just easygoing and fun to be around. And we had a really fun team that year. Another guy, Kirk Penny, he's a New Zealander, went to Wisconsin. Geez, small world. He played, I think, for Tony Bennett, and Brad Soderberg was an assistant coach for him. So, geez, the longer you play, the more, a couple degrees of separation you are from guys.
Talk to me a little more about the tough situations Cody was in, because maybe people kind of haven't kept up with his career, because I know he's in NBL 2 right now.
Yeah, so I think he started out his career with the Sydney Kings, and then he just kind of bounced around. He played, for the Hawks for a while, and this was at a time when, the league wasn't exactly as professional as it as it is now. So I think he just struggled finding probably a good environment because Cody could play. He could really shoot the ball. Like I said, he played defense, put his body on the line, all that stuff. And so much of it, like professional sports all around, the country, the world, is just being in the right spot. But I think, the thing with Cody is, like I said before, you never heard a bad word, said about the coach, the players, poor me, all this. And yeah, it just comes from a really good family.
Any funny stories of him? I know he likes to drink a little bit. Any funny stories you got with
Man,
Cody?
I can't think of that many, man, I can't think of any funny Cody stories right now. You probably got more than me.
I have a couple. I'll leave them off the pod.
A little bit different lifestyles. Having some young kids, might make a difference there too. So
Yeah.
you win a second MVP that season in Illawarra. Looks like you were the first to actually do that with two different teams. So walk us through that season. What was the arc of that year like for you?
Well, like I said, I had a really good team around me. Head coach, it was Rob Beveridge again, the coach I had in Perth. He just let me play. Kirk Penny and myself took a ton of threes. We had a big guy, AJ Ogilvy, who's Australian, went to Vanderbilt, but he'd gobble up all the misses, and he was really good himself. So we had a lot of really good pieces, and just played free and flowing, and yeah, shot a lot of threes. So it was a lot of fun.
Every time I look at the in between seasons or in Puerto Rico, I think of Adam Sandler just doing movies in like unbelievable locations so he can go on vacation and get paid. I mean, is that kind of the situation? Because it seems like you enjoyed nice little off seasons, so to speak, in a beautiful country like Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out really well because, the Puerto Rican season is short and it's during the off season of the Australian season. And I mean, it does help that it's a beautiful island and they pay well, obviously. So I think all those, factors played into it. But then once you got there, you just fell in love with the people, and there's I have friends there that I still stay in touch to, with to this day. So I was fortunate to play at some really beautiful places.
What's the, I don't think we ever really got into the language barrier at all anywhere. Where do you think it was the toughest? Spain, France, Puerto Rico, maybe?
The toughest would have been in France, I would say. Um, I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, and Puerto Rico, they speak Spanglish anyways. So, they're speaking English half the time, Spanish the other half. And um, Spain, it was very proper Spanish. And in fact, as the point guard, you're expected to call all the plays in Spanish and stuff. Um, but yeah, probably the biggest learning curve, I guess, where I learned probably the least amount of language was in France. I knew some things, but not that great. And it's my grandma immigrated from France, so she probably wouldn't be. We actually have family over there. She probably wouldn't be too proud of me.
So what brings you from you only one season with the Hawks to then going over to the Sydney Kings later in 2016?
Well, I mean, my wife is from Sydney, but it's funny because Illawarra or Wollongong and Sydney, where we live, are pretty much right in the middle between the two. They're about, hour and a half from each other, and I think a lot had to do with, the Kings were rebuilding, starting, something new, and they were paying a bit of money. So, I mean, we won't beat around the bush, but I think that first year playing back in Illawarra, it was it was pretty fun because, yeah, the fans there are very passionate and they weren't too happy that I went elsewhere, but it was a lot of fun.
You got to.
So,
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, Jack.
No. Go ahead.
So they let you have it then. When you
Oh
went
yeah.
back. What's the atmosphere like? Are they playing in relatively large arenas, or is it one of those kind of like small enough to where you can almost hear everything everybody's saying to you?
Yeah, it's pretty where we played in Sydney, it's, it with all the seats open, it holds probably 22,000 people, whereas in Wollongong, it holds probably 4,500 people. So you can hear everything, and yeah, people are pretty creative, and it was coming at a time where it wasn't proper respectful to boo people, and they asked me after the game what I thought about getting booed, and I was like, "Are you serious?" I said, "If I was in the crowd, I would have been booing myself too for leaving." So just great fans there, and yeah, made for a fun atmosphere.
Playing in the A10, I guess, got you used to going between big buildings and small buildings. So, like, you play in Sydney or in an arena like Scottrade, and then you go to Wollongong, and you get to like
Fordham or
yes,
St.
St.
Joe's
Joe's.
or
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're exactly right. There's a big, contrast. You have, Xavier, a nice stadium, and Dayton different, but then yeah, some of the East Coast ones are just like little, just little high school gyms. They almost feel like, but just really fun atmospheres.
You mentioned
LaSalle.
yes. The Gola.
Oh gosh, Tom Gola Center. I remember
Uh,
that.
they
I don't
got
think
the.
I
Did,
ever won a game there.
did you ever go for a pre-game swim in the pool at Gola?
Oh no. Yeah, they were having some. I remember walking up the steps, and I think they were having a swim meet there though.
Any funny heckling? Like, you remember anything funny? They said that maybe registered is like a phrase you're not used to because they use a little bit different slang over there?
Oh, they use different slang. Probably nothing worth repeating on.
Come on, we live for that stuff over here.
No, but they would, hold up dollar bills and say, "Why don't you come up to the stands and come and collect?" It's stuff like that. And, so they people get pretty creative, and it's pretty cool. But I have my jersey with my last name taped off, and um so nothing, I remember I enjoy that. That's what makes sports, and that's why not to it was kind of sad with when you finish your career with fans not being allowed, because so much of what we do is entertainment. You love playing the game, but you love playing it in front of people. So yeah, that's the idea has changed a bit for sure.
One of the things that stands out to me about your time in Sydney, you played 2 exhibition games against NBA teams. It looks like the first one, it was against the Utah Jazz in 2017. Second one, it looks like the Clippers in Hawaii. And I think you briefly mentioned those in our previous time with you, but I wanted to touch on those again. What were those experiences like for you?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, especially that Utah trip. I really enjoyed, and like the basketball part was fun, but it was a chance for me to come back to the States. My family all came over, and like I had a week there where we got to hang out so much. And honestly, that's what I remember the most. Like the game was a lot of fun. Um, but being able to just spend that good quality time with the family when I don't get to see them that often. And that was a pretty special experience. And then, playing in Hawaii once again was a fun experience. I have um, cousins that live in Hawaii and my aunt and uncle, so they all came to the game as well. So I think the family aspect of being able to reconnect was the coolest thing. And the games were fun though too.
In Sydney, you got to play with Perry Ellis, and I'm just curious what it was like playing with somebody older than you that went to college more recently than you.
Yeah, but Perry went to Kansas for I think 13 years, maybe. But and we'd always joke with him, but geez, you would not find a nicer guy than Perry Ellis. And he could score the ball. He wasn't a huge fan of defense, but he could score the ball, and just a nice guy. And he's having a really good career for himself. I don't. Last I heard, he was hurt and then coaching a little bit, but played over in Europe. But yeah, just a great guy.
So you also teamed up with several other American players. You mentioned earlier Steve Blake, who played in the NBA a bit, who came from Maryland. Josh Powell from NC State's another name I found. Casper Ware, who was a good player from Long Beach State. Jashawn Tate from Ohio State, and Brian Bowen, who he had kind of a controversial story around him not going to college, getting caught up in a whatever scandal at Louisville or whatever. What do you remember about playing with all these guys? It seems like none of them were there necessarily all that long at the same time as you, but did you get to know all of them pretty well?
Yeah, I got to know all of them really well. Probably I got to know the best is Casper Ware, because I got to play with him for a year and then coach for a year while he was still playing. So, and I love Casper. He's a great guy. Same with Jashawn Tate. Got to play with him for a year. Just a stand-up guy that when he came to us, he was searching for his path, and now he's starting for the Houston Rockets and stuff. So he's had a pretty cool story. And yeah, you mentioned Josh Paul, really nice guy, and Steve Blake, and that's probably where when we had not the best Kings teams, and we were a bit all over the place, but yeah, it was great to experience playing with all those guys.
Uh, one of my favorite players over here in the NBA, I don't really watch the NBA that much, but I was drawn in especially to the Warriors run recently. Andrew Bogut came over as recently as I believe it was 2018-19. What was it like getting to kind of know him and play with him?
Yeah, it's funny. I guess Bogues and my journey started in Rio because I just got my citizenship. He was on the team, and then we get to the village and we're roommates. So, it's just, we're in an apartment with 3 rooms, but it's 2 to 1 room. So Bogues and I were together, and um, I was the one taking the pictures ESPN was putting up of the shower curtains not being up, the toilets not flushing in the village, and all that stuff. But so yeah, our journey kind of started there, and then yeah, and then he said he was coming to play for Sydney, which was awesome. Being able to play with a big guy who can, even though he was at the end of his career, with you know his IQ, the things he could do passing the ball, and just his feel for the game is just a dream to play with. So play with him for 2 years, and then now he owns some of the Kings team that I'm an assistant coach for. So yeah, we've had a lot of different I guess overlaps there.
So
Hold on one sec. I just want to, sorry, Pete. I just want to go back to you rooming with Bogut. I love asking about stories, man. Any stories about rooming with him? Clip his toenails over the sink, anything?
No, he, to be honest, he's just a real down to earth guy. I finally found a guy who liked country music like me a little bit, so yeah, in Australia, it's a little, obviously in the States, there's a bunch of guys like that, but just a really down to earth, no stories. And even if I had any, I probably wouldn't say them, but yeah.
Did
I
you get
don't
to meet?
have, just, yeah, we got along great and just pretty easy going.
Did you get to meet Keith Urban at all? Being that your love of country and him being from Australia.
It's actually funny. I did get to meet Keith Urban. We went to we went to a concert in Sydney and got to meet him before the concert. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
I got you.
So with Bogut, is he, as a partial owner, is he involved in kind of the day to day? Are you guys still seeing each other in the framework of the team?
Yeah, so we talk and do all that stuff. Um, he is involved in some day-to-day stuff, not too overbearing, and he's not living in Sydney at the moment, and with these lockdowns and stuff we have in Australia, it's not like you can travel freely to places. But yeah, he's definitely around the team, and yeah, we stay in touch with all team related stuff like that. So it's really good to have a guy like that who has not just played, but is actually a really smart guy business wise as well.
So you retire in 2020. Walk me through kind of the events leading up to it. I know you had ankle surgery. Kind of walk everyone through the events and your decision to hang him up.
Yeah, it was, I always thought that I'd be able to play till my late 30s probably. And um, I, my ankle wasn't, great. And I broke it second game of the last year there. And midway through the year, the doctor said, you're going to have to retire. Essentially, I had a bunch of arthritis. My ankle was collapsing. So the surgery I needed was to, cut your heel, shift it over, put a screw in, and no one plays after that really. So I said, okay, but let's just finish the season strong. So I was able to really finish the last 3 weeks of the season. Or no, longer than that. Sorry. I was able to finish probably the last maybe month and a half, 2 months of the season. and we finished pretty strong. We were in the the championship series, and that's really when COVID hit. We were down 2-1 and had to cancel the series. So of a best of 5 series. So that's kind of how it ended, and yeah, geez, it ended in a really memorable way.
Yeah, but a hard way too. I mean, that's got to be, a little bit unsatisfying to just have it clipped off so quickly there.
Yeah, it was really weird, but like honestly, I don't think a day about it. Like it doesn't bother me the least, and that's probably just how I went throughout my career. You just tackle what's in front of you, and then I think also by that time I was in quite a bit of pain playing, that it was maybe more of a relief than anything that it was all done and I could move on. So yeah.
So before we get too far into like your post career, I do want to bring it back to you and Andrew Bogut. So I mean, I guess he retired around the same time as you, right?
Yeah, we retired the same, yeah, after the same season. So his career from basketball ended essentially the same way mine did, with a team meeting, seeing whether we were gonna, fly back over to Perth 5 hours, in the midst of what was a growing concern within the world, and yeah, season just ended. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of weird. We both retired at the same time like that.
And you hinted at our last show that you guys share one other thing that may be of interest to SLU fans, is that you both played for Rick Majerus, and I've got to know, how did you guys bond over both playing for Rick Majerus? The shared knowledge and the shared trauma of playing for Rick Majerus. What
Oh.
what's that like with Andrew Bogut?
Well, I think first of all, you need to, obviously Bogues doesn't have a filter. He's not afraid to say anything. So he's got a podcast called Rogues Bogues as well, and he talks a little about his Rick Majerus stories in there as well. But man, in the locker room, we would, stuff would kind of trigger us, and we, share stories. And it's funny, my stories were almost the exact same as a lot of his stories. And it really was it was a way to, I guess, reminisce while still sharing the pain together, maybe a bit, because man, he went, I think he went to the NBA after his sophomore year at Utah, but he wasn't going to come back for that sophomore year if Majerus was still there, I don't think. So
Wow.
they had a difficult relationship, but it was, I guess, a similar, in my mind, it was difficult, but looking back, you're so grateful for it, and you realize, everything he did for you as well.
We mentioned Majerus, and you're being in Australia, and how Harriman made the connection in Australia. What about your role in helping any of the SLU players come down to the NBL? Conklin, Jet come to mind specifically.
Yeah, well, they came from, they were on other teams, obviously.
Mhm.
So I I didn't have, to be honest, a whole lot to do with, getting them there. I'm sure I was asked about him, and I'd like to think I put in a good word just because I know these guys can play. Um, but yeah, it was pretty cool. I remember, playing against Townsville, who Jordan and Brian played for, I think their first year, and all three of us getting a picture together after one of the preseason games. That yeah, it was just a small world. I think Cody might have been on the team, my team too, at that. I can't even remember.
You got to send that to us so we can put it out on the Twitter.
Yeah, man, I don't even know where it is. I'll look for it.
I'll holler at Cody, see if he has it too.
Yeah, yeah.
So, were there any other SLU players that knew coming over there to play internationally?
Well, Rob Lowe, obviously, he's he's played over in New Zealand now. The New Zealand team's in the Australian League, so catch up with Bobby whenever he's in town, and And yeah, so it's pretty amazing the amount of SLU guys.
He's kind of radio silent. He just got Instagram like in the last month. Uh, do you have any insight for SLU fans on how he's doing down there? Because I mean, honestly, he's radio silent.
Yeah, he's doing well. This past year was really rough for him. He had just had a kid, and then the New Zealand team, due to COVID, had to come to Australia and pretty much live in hotels and just travel around Australia for I want to say it was like 4 or 5 months. So he actually, because you can't travel back to New Zealand, they have these quarantine rules. Same with Australia. So it was really tough on him. He left the team for a little, but then came back and I think he's doing pretty good now. So, but man, I don't know how those guys did it.
I don't want to live in hypotheticals, but I'm curious with everything that happened leading up to the Tokyo 2020 games. If you were in line to play again for the Boomers, would you have gone through the that I don't want to call it hassle because I mean there is a lot of fun involved, but would you have considered not going in 20 or to Tokyo?
If I was in line and playing good basketball, I would have gone still.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime you can represent your country and play in the Olympics, I think, it's a pretty cool experience and yeah, I definitely would have gone.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure with, kind of the extra kind of hassle that come along with the coronavirus regulations, I guess. I didn't know if that would have kind of put you off as an a more veteran player.
Yeah, I don't know if it, I think you kind of just deal with it. But I think, the being able to play in the Olympics is pretty cool and it'd have to be, you know, um, I guess, yeah, it'd have to be something really big to try and turn me away from that for sure.
You don't strike me as a tattoo guy, but did you get the Olympic rings?
No, I didn't get the Olympic ring, so I I'll just choose to have that memory in my head. I think it's good enough for me.
So what was your transition like from playing to coaching for Sydney?
Yeah, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had another year left in my contract after I had to, medically retire. So they were like, "Where can we put Kevin?" We so I kind of once our head coach Will Weaver took the lead assistant job with the Houston Rockets, everyone got bumped up and they needed another hand on deck. Um, to start coaching. And I didn't necessarily want to start coaching. I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, but I just started and I loved it. And then, yeah, I guess it just kind of progressed where, to this next season, a full-time assistant coach. We just got a new coach from a really young, good coach, Chase Buford, who's coming from the Milwaukee Bucks organization. Um, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the season going here.
What will your day-to-day role be as far as your responsibilities as an assistant?
Well, every head coach has their own, different take on stuff. Chase's, um, once he gets here, I'm sure I'll have, a little better job description, but a lot of it is development with the players. Um, and then you get certain teams you scout for and I guess you deliver the scout and then review and help guys look at things they could have done better or did well and that kind of stuff. So I guess in a quick nutshell, that's what it looks like. A bit more computer and video work than I had been used to,
Yeah.
as a player for sure.
What was it about coaching that drew you in? You mentioned being kind of hesitant, but was there like an aha moment where you kind of realized like this is this is what I want to do, or was it just I'm not ready to be away from the game yet?
I think just being able to stay on the court, and I always enjoyed the psychological side of the game, and the emotions you go through, the ups and the downs, and I think being able to still be involved in that, and hopefully help guys through that, as well as develop, and it's so much fun to see guys improve throughout the season, and I think those things are really what drove me to go this route.
So what's next for the Lish family? What do you see? Do you see coaching as kind of as the kind of your next path for the next 10, 15, 20 years? Or, are you just going to enjoy being a dad, a husband? And
Yeah, well, I guess what's next, I know, the kids will be up at 6:30 tomorrow morning. We're gonna have to give them breakfast. Um, we're gonna have to homeschool them now that they're in lockdown. It's
Yeah.
funny when you have a family like that. I can't even think a couple days into the future. As for coaching, I'm enjoying it now. I'm loving it now, so I'm gonna do it now. I don't know. We could eventually move back to the States. Um, we could stay here for a long. I just don't know, and I'm not even going to try and plan it out now because, um, yeah, I don't have time to, I guess.
So I got to ask you what that lockdown experience is like with 4 kids. I have 2, and actually one of them just tested positive about a week ago, and so we're on like double quarantine right now. So I know Australia has taken some pretty heavy measures. What's that been like for you guys? Is everybody doing okay?
Yeah, no, we're doing fine, and they have taken some very heavy measures, um, and yeah, it's interesting. Right now, the part that that makes it tough, I think, is that our kids can't go back to school right now. You have to homeschool and do all that stuff, and um, yeah, the lockdowns can be pretty strict, um, and plenty of rules and stuff. But you just deal with it, and I guess you have to look at it as a great opportunity to spend this family time that you wouldn't otherwise have gotten. So that's the way you got to look at it, or else it'll kind of eat you alive, I guess.
I gotta tell you, Australian rules football was my savior for a little bit on late nights here. I mean, it was the first sport I think to come back besides maybe golf. But yeah, did you get into it? When it was back being the only sport on TV, or were you just kind of doing your own thing?
We were kind of just doing our own thing, and obviously, I've watched plenty of the football games, but I do remember, I think they started broadcasting it into the States a little bit more because, like you said, it was the first sport back, and yeah, it was pretty cool to be back, that for Australia to have that. But geez, I tell you what, it's been a roller coaster for Australia, and it's been pretty interesting over here.
I gambled a little more money than I'd like to admit on Australian rules football at 1 a.m. on Saturday nights. Uh,
Geez, Cody must not have been giving you very good tips then.
no, he sucks. He's the worst handicapper I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. He tried to get me into the Hawthorne Hawks, and I just couldn't. So I switched over to the Crows,
Yeah,
uh, you
okay.
know, as the hat.
Okay.
But no, Cody's fantastic, and we talked quite a bit about games and whatnot. But I'd record every game and then wake up the next day and watch it while I was working. Don't tell my boss. Um, but yeah, no, Pete, anything that
Yeah,
we
really. The last thing I just want to ask is, do you have any relationship with the SLU program now? And if not the program kind of formally, because I know there's a completely different staff and personnel in place than when you were there. What players do you still keep in touch with?
Yeah, that's a good question. So much have changed. I still talk to Chris May, obviously the athletic director, and I've messaged before with Travis Ford just through emails and stuff, but I don't I don't have a huge, I guess, relationship. Just because I've been away for so long, things have changed. But that is one thing that I'd like to, I guess, especially the things that Travis Ford has done with the program and reigniting things, and it's definitely something that I'd love to, geez, especially when I can travel again and make it back to, I guess, rekindle those relationships for sure, because I love, SLU and where the program's going, and the people involved there.
Do you think you would have fit in with Travis Ford as a player? Do you think I mean, I can imagine you guys are kindred spirits, to be honest. But as far as as a player, would I would imagine you'd have fit right in.
I think I would have loved playing for him. I mean, you just see the way his teams, just defensively, they're tough. And then offensively, he gives them, freedoms to play. And it looks like they have so much fun. He's got a ton of energy there. And, uh, I always say too, anytime a player can play for a former point guard, you know, jump at that chance, because yeah, he'd be a lot of fun to play for.
Are Chris and Janet hounding you to come back as an assistant?
No, no, they haven't haunted me to do anything, but you know, who knows? Maybe one day I, can come back and I don't know. Who knows?
Well, I just want to give you a chance to freestyle on your time at SLU, man. Just anything, any message to the SLU fans, anything you want to get off your chest, man. Go on.
Oh, there's nothing that I want to get off my chest.
Well, not
It's
so, not in a bad way,
I
but
think I
not in
think
a
for
bad
me
way.
the toughest part has been, when you've played for a program and you have pride in it, and then you've lived away for 10 or 15 years, not being able to come back has really killed me. And being able to watch the games, and I watch them on the internet, but actually being there and in the atmosphere, and not being able to experience games with the fans that cheered you on when you played has been pretty tough as well, and something that I've definitely yearned for. But and it's something that down the road, hopefully I have that opportunity to do that, because SLU has been so good to me. Even some of the awards and stuff I won are at SLU. Not being able to go back for that, or alumni games, not being able has been pretty tough. But it's still very close to my heart, that's for sure.
Well, Pete, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's great. No, thanks for sharing.
Did we tell him that they're rebuilding Humphreys? Did we give you that news yet?
I don't know if that's as big a
Penny
news
pinchers
as Kevin.
still?
Well, no, I don't. Yeah. Well, I don't know yet. They're it's in early stages of like they're going in and cleaning it up, and there's some renderings out there online finally, and I think it's going to be back sooner rather than later. So that
That might have to be a good excuse to come back when I can travel again freely, and if I get permission to leave this country.
second picture's on me though. You got to get the first one because it's the one you got to buy full price. I'll get the second one out. Kevin, unbelievable, man. Thank you for spending three hours with us in total, and we'll catch up soon. I gotta try to make it down to Australia in general. I've been telling Cody I'm gonna do that for 10 years now, and I've just been lazy.
Yeah.
But dude, unbelievable. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I really had a great time, and like I said in the first one, it's always great to talk with guys from back home who experienced a lot of what I did and can relate to that. So no, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thanks for your generosity, and best of luck this upcoming season with the Kings.
Same.
Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
Take it easy.
Catch you later.